Hey guys, thanks for coming to hang out. Just gonna do a little drawing tonight. I've been doing these little drawings for the hell of it for the past few days, about a week or so now. They don't take me very long, and they're a lot of fun to do. So I figured it might be fun to do a little video drawing one up. Forgot to make my tools up, but I think I should be able to do just fine. I don't even have a pencil sharpener on me tonight, so we'll see how far I can get with a few pre-sharpened pencils, and maybe we'll get something nice worked out here. I had this kind of idea working around that I wanted to do for a little while, so I'm going to see if I can't get it to work. Kind of works to my advantage being left-handed, I guess. But yeah, we just start kind of getting in a bit of a gradient. Little rules you gotta follow, or don't gotta, but little rules that I try to follow. There's no white, really, because white would be, a solid point of light. So everything, even the background, starts with some kind of gradient usually. Get it in there. And the one that I'm trying to work on today is pretty simple. It's not going to be anything too complicated. This shouldn't be a very long video, I don't think. It doesn't take me very long to draw these anyway. But I'll start working here. Get a nice little spot of light coming through. There's a lot that you can do with a pencil and an eraser. It's kind of crazy. So clouds are weird because, I don't know, you ever look at the clouds and think, man, it looks like whoever was in charge of painting the clouds today just didn't know what they were doing. It makes me angry. I get up in the morning, you got these beautiful sunrises, and you got these really awful looking clouds just hanging out. And we're just scribbling here. That's really all we're doing. Just a bunch of scribbles. A bunch of scribbles all in the right places. Yeah. Thicker parts of the clouds are going to be darker. Less light's getting through them. Usually the rule with shadows is the darker it is, the further it is away. But with clouds, while that's true, it's also got to do with where the light's coming from. I'm sure anybody who does this kind of stuff regularly, sitting here rolling their eyes like no shit. But then different clouds will, do different things, and I may end up showing you a trick I learned because I don't know how good my shading is going to be right here, but we'll sure do. Yeah, we'll see what we come up with. Just get layers and layers and layers. Anyone here ever heard that, myth or that story about how NASA NASA spent billions of dollars trying to develop a pen that would write in zero-G. The Russians ended up solving the problem by using a pencil. It's a really good story. Makes you feel good about using pencils. But in reality, it doesn't really work in space. Pencils need to be sharpened. You're literally using dust to draw, write, or whatever. That kind of stuff doesn't go very well in space. I think that point was brought up in like an Andy Weir novel or something, but it's also kind of common sense. Alright, I'm going to have to show you guys a trick. Folding paper is not the trick, I promise. This isn't going to turn into an origami video. Oopsies. You have like a nice little paper pencil kind of thing. That's what we're looking for. And again, a lot of people, I'm sure, already know what this is. It's just a smudge stick. But again, like you'll buy packs of like 5 of these at a store. And granted, they're a little bit better made. But, you know, you really going to spend money on a rolled up piece of paper? Come on, you guys can make that. You're artistic, right? We're all a little artistic. Shout out to my little brother. But now that we have our smudge stick, all you're doing now, I mean, it literally, it does what the name is. You see how beautifully that smooths out that? It kind of transitions that there. And yeah, it just, all it does is you're smoothing that graphite around on there. Just kind of smoothing that out. It kind of matters the direction in which you go in, because you're going to get, you know, smudges in that direction. But, you know, we're making clouds, so it's going to smudge in that direction. I have, you know, and you get nice little effects like these little lines that look kind of like they're, you know, God rays maybe, or stuff coming out, but and that's exactly what we're going for. You get happy little accidents, right? The fun part is we're still going to be cutting most of that off. But see, now we kind of have an idea of where this wants to go. So we can come back in and we can kind of fill that detail in. Again, you know, even on a cloudy day, when it's all super cloudy, the sun's still showing through. It's still kind of glowing through the clouds. Before we were kind of going all that direction, but now, you know, with our shading and whatnot, we kind of have a good idea of, you know, the way that the clouds are flowing across our drawing here. Okay, and another nice thing about this smudge stick is once you start to use it, it starts to pick up that lead, that graphite. Excuse me, and it begins to work. You know, it's kind of almost a drawing utensil in itself. You can use it kind of to smooth out those edges and kind of give your light a more kind of glowing effect. You round that out to give it a more orb-like shape that you can actually see through the clouds. You know what? Depending on how far we get with this, I may do something really fun with this. Just cause I can. Who knows though? We'll probably keep this one simple. I might try to keep the fun stuff if you guys like the video. Like and subscribe, guys. Are you enjoying yourselves yet? I'm enjoying myself. This passes the time so well. Shit's been rough, guys. It really has. Yeah. Just kind of keep it that. I'm going to bring out the light in our sun just a little bit more. It's coming through the clouds still. I really wish I'd spent a couple more dollars on these pencils. I would have had better erasers on them. Get that nice and round there. It's not perfect, you know, but just bring it back in. Just smooth out that in there. There we go. It's looking pretty good. Let's bring in a little more depth to the color here. And again, usually darkness means further away, but with clouds, it's really more about the thickness of them. But you can start to bring the shadows in on the clouds, especially when you're getting them darker. And shadows are fun because in a drawing or painting, it's really, you know, it's just lines or pigments on a page. And as whoa, man, as that sounds, I mean, you know, you get really close up on here, and it's literally all just scribbles. And I'm sure it doesn't look like much more than that now. We're just, you know, doing shaded segments on a page. But, like, that's all that this is. And then, you know, you having your experiences, your eye is then kind of tricked into seeing what I'm kind of trying to imply here. You start picking up what I'm putting down. But yeah, it has to do with the thickness. It also has to do with how close the sun is to the source. And we want to start getting kind of a radius kind of effect to get the light looking proper. And again, I'm thinking this one's going to be pretty simple. This is kind of an idea I've been playing around with. Again, like all these are just doodles that I do in my free time. And you might say, like everyone else, wow, you must have a lot of free time. But you're going to see here that, like, you know, this kind of shit, it actually doesn't take me all that long. It's just something, I don't know. So we get our shading in here. You can even, if you want to, if you're drawing along, it might be easier for you to kind of make a line so you know this is about where I want my shadows to start coming in. This is about where the thickness of my sun is wearing, you know, the thickness of my clouds is starting to affect the amount of light coming through them. And you know, maybe it's a cop out to just do a skyward picture for the first video. I don't know. Again, I kind of wanted to, this is, you guys will see it once it's done. This isn't going to be it, but I kind of had an idea like this in my head for a while. And as it starts to take shape, I'll tell you more about it. It's not my idea, but, you know, inspiration is inspiration. But yeah, along with your smudge stick, and that'll start to get worn down. Look at that, that's getting real nice and ugly, and then you probably can't, there it goes. Gross. But you can kind of flex it around a little bit, and it'll kind of change the shape of the tip and let you get a different spot, you know, worn down. I use this frame and I enjoy going outside of it because I do always end up tearing my paintings or my drawings up like that. I think it gives them a nice little like trading card effect. I think it's fun. But it makes it kind of neat. And remember, your eraser, it doesn't just get rid of mistakes. Your eraser is also a tool. You can use it to sharpen up lines, add highlights. It doesn't just get rid of things. You can use it to add. And you can bring that in here. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to make a little bit of room because I'm going to cover that right back up with the smudge stick. But when I do, I have a nice little ring around there it just looks like that nice little ring of light. You get that little lens flare. And that's what we're going for. Just a little effect through here. You just putting light pressure on with the eraser. You're not making nice gouges. I'm not even really doing anything to the eraser hardly. I'm getting more lead on the eraser itself than I'm actually pressing the rubber into the paper. Almost moving it around, but then you take it in here. Just get nice little lines through here. Nice little motions. It just starts to smooth out that circle there. And there'll be spots where you'll need to do it a little bit more. Yeah, I'm really disappointed. I'm really disappointed if none of my audio picks up through this. I hooked up this shit in Irish accent again. Let's bring it in and just smudge up this a little bit more. I don't know if you can see it on the camera there, but it's got a real sketchy look to it. You can even start kind of pulling your shadows around like that. Start pulling your shadows around. Since this is more of a straight up picture, not a straight up picture, but really the angle is very, very steep on this picture. And it's probably because any other way I tried to do this, it just looks like I'm doing weird field artwork. Stupid American Gothic stuff. But hey, this is kind of how this evolves, because, you know, the sky isn't ever just a single shade of blue. If you look up, you're going to see it at least a nice gradient, and that's if you had a beautifully clear day. But we're going to do kind of a really hard angle on the sky here. These are going to be our clouds. Yeah, you just kind of pencil whatever shape in, meets your fancy. I try to make them seem more random, but you know, if you're feeling like drawing kitty cats in the sky, more power to you. It's your drawing, right? Yeah, just draw that right over there. I'm even going to change the angle up just a little bit, just by giving the clouds a more for sure bottom to them. And you don't even have to make it darker, really. I'm wondering, that's probably why this looks like it does. I need a better surface to draw on. Getting this kind of wood, the texture of the wood grain in the drawing. I don't hate it, but it's definitely not ideal. So you kind of get your shape in there. You know, clouds further away from the sun, they're going to be a little lighter. But you always do, you know, you always do as far back as you can see in. You know, we all watch The Joy of Painting. Bob Ross always did the background first, and he'd draw stuff in, and you'd be sitting there like this asshole, this wizard. How have you been on TV this long and not been burned at the stake? How are you doing this wizardry? I don't know. I think, am I the only one that, like, I enjoy The Joy of Painting like nothing else, but I also just sit there and seethe while I watch it. Like, how do you do this, you magician, you? But yeah, we draw our clouds in, and the thinner the cloud is, the more the sun comes through it. We still have our little lens flare going on, likes to come through. What's nice about this is, so light is really fun to play with, because especially in drawings like this, because it is just, you know, points on it. You can use your eraser to do the light. I think I'm not going to use this time. That's for harder lines. These erasers are great for, you can break them apart. If you need a lot of eraser, that's a great way to go. It's like 50 cents for 2 of them. So has anyone here ever heard of the SCP Foundation? And I'm just going to assume that most of you were like, SCP Foundation, I've never heard of that before. Because I'm going to tell you about this anyway. It just stands for Secure, Contain, Protect, and it's a collective writing project where these people who are, you can just basically, you can go onto the wiki and you can just write whatever you want, really, if you want to, but you go on there and you find a blank spot and you write about your particular anomalous entity, item, or object, and these things are either dangerous or secured or some combination of that. And it's a really, really brief synopsis of what this thing actually is, but there's always been this idea that and you got to be out, yeah, I guess you got to be maybe from the Midwest, or at least in a place that has a lot of fields, I suppose. That's a horrible angle on that. You have to pretend like I didn't do that. We'll fix that. Happy accidents, right? But if you guys have ever seen like maybe those completely worn out grain silos that, you know, just gone, you know, there's just the shell of the thing left. I like that angle a lot better. Just the shell of the thing left, and from the top of it there's a single like tree growing out of there. It's just got that kind of effect, and just kind of had this idea that, you know, those in and of themselves are, you know, one of these anomalous things. And always wanted to put it to paper and never really had the cause to, but right now we're just trying to find the right angles on our structure here, and it just takes a little trial and error, and that's fine. You can do it more precisely if you want to, but hey guys, I think I lost you there for a couple of minutes. I guess my video timed out, but we didn't get much further. Just drew a couple lines. I think whenever it cut out, I was in the middle of saying something along the lines of, who wants to plan out their drawings anyway? It's just kind of fun to start drawing them and see where they go, isn't it? That said, I'd gotten into a little story about how I remember there was this one place that I'd worked at where I was cleaning the windows specifically, and I found myself captivated by this painting that was in the office. It was just a cityscape, but it was done in perfect detail. And again, I keep saying detail. I said detail last time. It was right before the video cut out, and it's not, detail's not the right word. It was done in perfect focus, and it almost had kind of an uncanny valley feel to it because of that. Like the foreground was in focus, the background was in focus, and I guess the point of my story is I find myself wanting to draw in the most detail possible, but when you do that, in my opinion, your drawing starts to look cartoonish. So you can see here I've been drawing these lines. These lines are really more just of a guide for me, so I know which way I want everything to go. And you'll see what I mean here in a second. I'm not going to start working on that quite yet, but So trees are kind of interesting because you kind of have to, in my experience, you kind of have to let them take shape. And you're going to be, everyone wants to draw a tree, you know, and it looks like a tree. It also looks like broccoli, or maybe like a really badly drawn Q-tip or something. But, you know, trees, they have branches. You know, and stuff comes out in the center and comes up. You have something lower, comes out. You know, everything is, things are three-dimensional, and you got to trick your eyes into seeing more dimensions that are actually there, right? And kind of the spirit of that. You don't even really, you more suggest things when you draw. Suggesting things is way easier than actually trying to draw what you're trying to draw. Suggest what you're trying to draw, and hopefully it comes through. That's what I'm hoping. Trees are very intimidating for me to draw because they're very final, especially in these kind of drawings. They're very dark, very deliberate parts of the drawing, and once you start drawing them, you kind of have to commit. And if you make a mistake, you just kind of maybe gotta make that work. Again, this is kind of where you get into the idea that your eraser is not just for getting rid of mistakes, but it's also a tool to be used to enhance the drawing. We do that in this part by getting rid of the sky and replacing it with what would be tree. And done right, you know, the different parts of your pencil are like different brushes when you paint. You'll know how they're going to work for you. And you can use them to kind of suggest in your drawing. And see, look at that. That cloud just turned into part of the tree. Isn't that fun? That was never supposed to happen. There was always supposed to be a cloud there. But it's tree now. Cloud is tree now. That's art. Isn't that incredible? And really the only difference once the drawing is done is going to be texture inside of these. And that's actually what we can start doing now, is we can, since kind of decided now where the tree is, we can get rid of the clouds and stuff are inside there, because, you know, you can't see the clouds through the trees. Honestly, like, I hate the texture that this table has, but it's not giving my painting, or fuck, I keep saying painting. It's honestly not giving a bad look to my drawing. I don't hate it at all. I don't like that it's there, but it's got some character to it, I'm gonna say. I can't be too upset. And so this is something I haven't really tried before. The upward angle, believe it or not, is not something that I'm used to drawing. Hard angles, sharp, really, really hard angles are not something that I draw an awful lot. So you guys are learning with me on exactly how I think this should look. When something looks right, it looks right. And so we're looking up at the tree from the bottom, right? It's supposed to be kind of the top of this thing. You know what? What if... Bear with me, guys. I think we might have fixed my issue here a little bit. What if it's broken? Just like all of us are. What if it's broken? Yeah. It's a little broken. And that's how we fix the drawing. Really, once that's, where everything's where you want it, it's really just about shade it in. Nothing to it but to do it. Thank you, Dylan Francis. And so yeah, we got our tree where we want it to be. And so now, just kind of got to start filling in the leaves. Unlike clouds, we like our scribbles in the leaves. Scribbles in the leaves make the leaves look like leaves. And we'll just keep those there and let the little highlights on the tops of the branches find themselves. And we're still looking at the tree from the bottom, so we're going to want to be darker around this center part here, but maybe not so dark here, because we want to keep that depth going in the right direction. Again, I find myself absolutely hating the texture that this table is putting into the drawing, but what can you do, right? But getting near. We're obviously past the halfway point here, but I'm hoping that maybe by the hour mark, we can have something as to what I'm looking for, what I was trying to get towards. Keep telling people it doesn't take me that long, and so the challenge with this video is to kind of keep it to an hour. So let's see what we can do. Let's see if we can keep it to an hour, maybe just around. But yeah, get up out of frame, and I really like how kind of just drop off with my sketchiness as soon as that gets out of frame there. This part of the tree is going to be a little bit further, and the trees is, being a solid object, that rule really works. The further it is from the sun, at least the light source, the darker it's going to be. But again, trees are weird, almost like clouds, because the light will come through them as well. So let's probably just use the back part of the eraser there. You kind of got to allow for that light to come through still. Darken that up a bit. This part here is way on the dark side of the tree. It's going to be way darker on this side. And that's when on this side, you know, because the sun it's coming down this way, and it's not hitting that part of the tree. It's just, you know, it's getting through. You know, you want to give the idea, you want to give the impression that light's getting through the leaves. With trees, if you do it in kind of like little layers, you're going to really get that kind of leafy effect. It makes the tree look like a tree. Come back in here to the sky behind it. We're just going to lighten that up a little bit just to kind of give it a bit of contrast. I want to show where the tree ends and the sky begins, and sharpen that line up just a little bit, because that is the back side of the tree. It is going to have harder lines, at least the furthest part of the tree from the back. We'll darken that up a little bit more just to really give it that idea that it is further back there. And, you know, depending on your drawing style, you know, if you're trying to do a more graphic, you can even bring that in really hard. It doesn't have to. I tore through my paint and drawing even a little bit there, but you don't even have to see anything to a degree. You can just bring that shading right in. You know, it's dark there. It's on the other side. It's not as exposed to the light. And what that does is it lets the imagination fill that gap in. And that's fine. That's, you know, part of art is imagination, not just for the artist, but for the person. You know, art is just as important to the person observing it. You know, how you feel about it is really all that matters. I think the Daredevil show did a good job of expressing that. It's fucked up that the Daredevil show helped me understand abstract art. I think it is. But no, I agree. It's not about the art itself. It's about how it makes you feel. I think that's a really nice sentiment. So here we kind of want our more solid lines, because we're going to start kind of doing this nifty little trick that I figured out where it's kind of get little eraser marks here, kind of the same fashion as how you would want to make your lines. And they don't need to even follow any kind of rhyme or reason. It's just putting that nice little texture on the thing itself. That's all we're doing. We're just kind of giving that nice little texture there. Now that that's been lightened up that way, it really makes the tree pop more. You can see a lot more of that contrast in the tree itself. And here, after we have this in here, we're going to start making little, and this comes back, making little shading areas here. And this kind of comes back to that, what I was saying earlier about always wanting to be as detailed as possible in the past. When I do that, my drawings would start to look cartoonish. And yeah, there'd be, wow, you can see there's cracks in the bricks, and oh wow, there's a lot, there's highlights on this and on that, but everything had an outline. And things in reality don't have outlines, they have shape to them. They have depth and definition, And that's what we're really trying to get at. And I feel like pencil is one of the easiest mediums to bring that out. Things don't need a definite outline. With pencil, you can really work it in. I had a teacher at one point who tried to get that idea across, is that these lines don't need to be solid. Though if you shade them properly, if you express the colors the way they need to be, then the shape will come out. And yeah, really we're just kind of trying to give the suggestion that this is made with little itty bits of material. And not just panels, and kind of, you know, make little detail lines if you want to. It's not going to hurt anything. And you know, I'm honestly feeling that might not have been a sun after all. This might be a nice bright night, guys, with a beautiful full moon hidden by a nice cloud cover. Maybe you're enjoying a night like that yourself. Wouldn't that be great? I sure hope you guys are. And yeah, we're just gonna bring in a few little finishing touches on this as we finish her up. I'm gonna shade that up a little bit. Bring a few highlights into the trees. Use that to highlight a little bit of clouds. Give the clouds a little glow. I think we're going to bring this part back in. I don't like that so much. But not completely back in. Yeah, one pencil. One pencil. One eraser. Just about 1 hour. Told you guys it doesn't take me that long. Tearing my drawing. It's okay. We tear these up anyway. Looking rough is kind of part of it. I hope everyone enjoyed. And yeah, we'll do this again. I have a good time. Let's see what we can do as far as getting this apart the way I like to. I hope everybody else was as terrified that this wasn't going to work very well as I was, because yeah, a pencil is not normally how I do this. But that is more or less the desired result. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching me draw that. I enjoy doing it. Normally that'd be in pen, but I don't have one right now. Have a good night.